Conor Benn, boxer Conor Benn, has taken to social media, Simon, last night to discuss the ongoing investigation into his positive drugs test, claiming he has, quote, never cut corners or cheated the grind in any way. I'm going to quote from his social media post, which was quite lengthy to say the least last night. Right now, though, I had a very brief word with Conor this morning, and this is all he was prepared to say to me.
Well, just early next year is going to be an exciting year, and I'll be back. That's all I'm saying on it at the minute, Jim. I'll let everything else come out in due course.
Next year is going to be an exciting year, and I'll be back. So Ben's being investigated by UK anti-doping, UKAD and the WBC, but the latter are expected to return their verdict on the investigation by the end of this month. UKAD's investigation is much further from reaching a verdict. Conor is robust in what he's saying, Simon. He says, although I've kept away from social media, I'm well aware of those who have thrown dirt on my name. I'll forgive, but I won't forget. He's still pushing back that he is totally innocent in this. He says, my team has proven my innocence and the truth will soon come out. Until then, I won't be commenting further due to confidentiality, although he did speak to us briefly. He said, for now, I'm looking forward to sharing Christmas privately with my family, and I'll be back in January. See you all in 2023, the year I become world champion. Couldn't be more positive, could he?
Yeah, I mean, look, no one has ever wanted Conor Benn to be in this position. No one's ever basked in it or been happy that this situation manifested itself. There was a fight. I wasn't enamoured with the fight. I didn't want Conor Benn in this fight, full stop, because I thought it was a huge risk for him fighting someone as big as Eubank. And then, of course, then we saw the other side of the argument where Chris Eubank was shredding himself down to an equation. Nobody wanted this landscape. And so where we are now is in a situation where if you don't fill a vacuum with information, that vacuum will be filled by other people's views. And that's what's happened along the way. You've had 2 drugs tests, not 1, 2, that have been failed, or adverse findings, or whatever the terminology people want to utilise. An adverse finding means a failed drugs test. VADA is a testing regime that wasn't something that he volunteered for. It was something that he signed up for as a result of being inside the top 15 of the WBC. So all of these backstories, there were 2 vacuums that were not being filled. One from his promoter, who ran away, and I called it cowardly, and I maintain it was cowardly from Eddie Hearn not to have addressed the situation, and not making Eddie Hearn a coward per se, but making his actions in that situation cowardly, because you've got lots to say about other things. You should have addressed this. And, of course, the vacuum that the fighter has left, because ultimately he's being advised by lawyers and representation. He did a ridiculous interview in the Sunday Times that I found perplexing, with representatives in the room seeming to control what he could and couldn't say. There's nobody that doesn't want this to be wrong. I would love it. I think most people in boxing would love it. Would love it.
He's
and most
a refreshing character. He's a wonderful lad.
Well, yeah. I mean, he comes from a fighting stock.
Of course.
He comes with a certain set of credentials. He's a very nice lad.
It's widely regarded this has been the toughest time of his life. I think it's been the toughest time for his dad as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, we all have tough times in our lives, and there's going to be other things in his life that are going to be far tougher than this.
But Simon, when the inference is people are going to be really shocked, and I do hope the apology is as loud, you have to think he's going to prove his innocence.
We will see. I mean, we will see. I mean, whether it's a technicality or whether there's something that's suggesting that 2 separate tests, because the difficulty is when you actually distill it down, no one, as again, I say the point, no one wanted to be here. But when you've got 2 separate tests taken at 2 distinctly different times, and they've come up with the same circumstances, and then there's been a lack of desire to have the B tests, the B samples put into play, all of it leads to a conclusion that if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a bleeding duck. Right? Now, in this instance, if Conor Benn and his legal representation and whoever else he's surrounded himself by are going to come roaring through the front door and effectively rebut every single allegation, are going to deal with the British Boxing Board of Control and their position around refusal to sanction this fight, are going to deal with the failed tests that VADA submitted, then we'll have a completely different set of discussions, and he'll be welcomed back into the fold.
Of course.
I'm struggling to see how he's going to do it, but I'll be looking. And Conor can make it about other people. He can make it about other people's race to judge, but it's not other people who produced the failed drugs tests. It's not other people that haven't been able to fill the vacuum with substantial enough reasons as to why these materials, why these substances were found in his system, however small a trace they were. And I'm hoping that if he comes back in January with his highfalutin legal team and rams it down the throats of all of us. I didn't condemn him. I said the same thing as everyone else has
that's
said.
right, yeah.
I don't think people have condemned him.
No.
I think people have said, well, you know, if it looks like what it is, it's going to be very difficult to see that it isn't something different.
And yet, serious pushback last night on that statement. The audio clip you heard was all that he was prepared to say this morning. That's up to him. But he said last night, never did we think we'd go through something like this. But they say the hardest fight is life and the adversity it brings. I want to make up for lost time and not let another moment go to waste. So in other words, you got to think, and we're second guessing it, that boom, he proves his innocence and then cracks on from that point onwards and makes up for lost time. That's what it seems to me.
I mean, never having been involved in a situation where I've had drugs tests in my life that I've needed to pass or fail, I'm struggling to understand what takes 5 months. Because the first failed drugs tests were in July. The second failed drug tests were at the end of August, that were notified at the end of September and then leaked to the media. And then that media situation was which overtook the circumstances. I'm struggling to understand what takes 5 months to clear yourself, or what takes certainly 3 months, because we're now at the end of the year. And I'm assuming they're going to have a very compelling set of answers. And I, for one, will be all ears.
Say he does prove his innocence.
Fantastic,
okay?
great, wonderful.
Say he does. And he was prepared to give me a brief audio clip this morning when I spoke to him. I've known him for a while. But let's say he does prove his innocence. Is the boxing world ready to accept him back into the fold?
Well, innocence or good reason or technicality depends how he does it. It's like, people are going to like this, it's like Man City getting off the recent situations with financial fair play over a technicality that there was a statute of time that didn't allow certain documents to be produced. Isn't quite the same as being exonerated. And a technicality isn't quite the same as being exonerated, is it? If he comes back with an absolutely compelling slam dunk, that's the end of the discussion, everybody got wrong, then the boxing world's going to embrace him. It's going to bring back one of its prodigal sons into its bosom and hope that he's going to go forward and win a world title.
But we both know that mud sticks in sport.
Well, yes, but, situations change. You've got a world champion that failed a drugs test in Tyson Fury. You've got Canelo Alvarez, who is the world's richest and most revered fighter, that failed his drugs test, that is eulogised as the greatest thing since sliced bread. I sit here waxing lyrical about Tyson Fury. So if we can forgive those, then quite frankly, Conor Benn will be in the exact same category. I hope. I have reservations about it, but he is going to have to support these words with substantial circumstance behind it, and we'll see if he does. And if he does, there will not be a person, I don't believe there'll be a mean-spirited person that suggests that they wanted it not to be this way.